But it says Columbia protesters' tent encampment won't end until our university listens to our demands. Okay, let's go.
Are you guys going to listen to the university and leave the encampment here?
Of course not. The university is the one who should listen to us. They should listen to their student body who are demanding to end their investment in the war that's happening in Palestine. Our demands are clear. Our demands are regarding the investment from the Israeli occupation, the companies that are profiting and contributing to the genocide of our people. Again, the university, once again, they are so stubborn in listening to their students. They're treating this matter as a disciplinary matter. They're not treating this as an anti-war movement that actually gathered thousands of students here. That actually sparked thousands of students across the United States.
How far are you all willing to go here on campus?
We're going to go as far as we need to pressure the university to pressure the university to divest from the occupation. This is up to the group, to the leadership of the group, to decide how far they will go. But now it's clear that the students will remain here. They will stay here until they achieve their demands.
So basically, that was what he said. Let me ask you this. And what he said, how does that deem, is there anyone under physical threat? Is there anyone in direct threat of their lives or safety or health by what he just said? Who within the United States is in danger of him saying those words and then it triggering something horribly happening to somebody? So there was a gentleman by the name of Mahmoud Khalil that has been detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. Mahmoud Khalil is, but for all intents and purposes, a student, and that's it. And yet he's being treated like a terrorist. Why is he being treated like a terrorist? Well, let's get into the story first, dissect that. There's been more further developments since then, since the story broke out, regarding what the Trump administration is trying to do to Mahmoud, and also the subsequent, pushback from the public about what's going on with Mahmoud. So let's get into this. Let me share the screen. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's get into this. So actually, you know what? That was my second article. I'm sorry. Let me go to the first article that I want to share. That's the other one. Okay. All right. So the first article is Immigration Agents Arrest Palestinian Activists Who Helped Lead Columbia University Protests. So this is Mahmoud Khalil. Right? Let's get into it. Okay. So it says federal immigration authorities arrested a Palestinian activist Saturday who played a prominent role at Columbia University's protest against Israel, a significant escalation in the Trump administration's pledge to detain and deport student activists. Mahmoud Khalil, a graduate at Columbia until this past December, was inside his university-owned apartment Saturday night when several Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents entered and took him into custody. That was per his attorney, Amy Greer. She spoke by phone with one of the ICE agents during the arrest, who said that they were acting on State Department orders to revoke Khalil's student visa. Informed by the attorney that Khalil was in the United States as a permanent resident with a green card, they said that they were revoking that instead. Spokesperson for Homeland Security, Trista McLaughlin, confirmed that Khalil's arrest is in a statement on Sunday, describing it as being in support of President Trump's executive orders prohibiting anti-Semitism. First of all, we're going to stop here, because there's a lot of people who are still getting confused about the difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. So I'm going to explain it to you right now. If I am anti-white supremacy, does that mean I'm anti-American? I mean, there could be an argument for that. But for the most part, no. Because I am anti-white supremacy. White supremacy is really a socio-political ideology. I don't have problems with necessarily the citizens or people of America. I have a problem with the institution that brought about the slaughter of, millions of Native Americans, and then kidnapped, stole, and put in chains millions and millions upon Africans into chattel slavery. And then the subsequent persecution that has continued down to this day. But does that make me anti-American? No. Just like I could be anti-white supremacist, but not be anti-American. You can be anti-Zionist, but not anti-Semitic. See, the thing is that Zionism is a political ideology that is tied to a settler colonial project that steals land from an indigenous people in order to take it over. And some come under the guise that it was God that told them to do it, when in reality, it was really just a robber baron who did. It was people who said that we just want to move away. It was the British government that was actually anti-Semitic, that wanted to send Jewish people away because they didn't want to actually deal with their own bigotry within their own borders. So it is a political ideology. It has nothing to do with religion or ethnicity. Anti-Semitism, in its truest sense, is hatred or aversion to a Semitic people. Who are Semitic people? People who speak Arabic, Aramaic, Hebrew, languages like that. Well, Hebrew, yeah, you got Israelis, but you got Arabic, which Arabs typically speak. So therefore, Arabs are also Semites. So advocating for the freedom of Palestinians who are Arabs is actually pro-Semitic. But according to their definition, it's anti-Semitism. That doesn't make any sense. That's like hypothetically speaking, let's say a bunch of Colombians decide to take over land in Brazil, and then the Brazilians fight back. and then you side with the Brazilians, but then they call you anti-Latino. But Portuguese and Spanish are both Latin languages, which means both Brazilians and Colombians are Latino. So it doesn't make sense to say I'm anti-Latino if I'm actually speaking and advocating for the freedom of Brazilians, because you may have some Colombians that are trying to take over that piece of land. See how it makes sense now? It's an oxymoron. But the governments that we are under are fiendishly moronic by their very nature, because they're beholden to not the goals of preserving the lives of Jewish people, but it's about preserving a military base in the middle of West Asia in order to keep in check other nations, because they don't want them to start nationalizing their resources and moving into a more worker-centric direction, because they want those resources for the corporations here on this land. That's ultimately what it's about. Judaism is a religion primarily. And so therefore, Zionism and Judaism are not congruent. So much so that even Orthodox Jews condemn the state of Israel. And many Jewish people who are not Orthodox condemn the state of Israel. I've had them on this channel before. Because the state of Israel is actually committing genocide on a mass scale, upwards of over 180,000 people that was reported by the Lancet, in order to clear out the land so that they can have it for themselves. And this is the part that is horrific, because as many of my Jewish friends and comrades that have told me, when they said never again, they meant it. But Zionists don't. And also, not all Zionists are Jewish, and not all Jewish people are Zionists. I can list Zionists who are not Jewish right now. Donald Trump is a Zionist. Joe Biden's a Zionist. Barack Obama's a Zionist. Kamala Harris is a Zionist. Nancy Pelosi's a Zionist. Hakeem Jeffries is a Zionist. Richie Torres is a Zionist. None of them are Jewish. Most Zionists are actually Christian. So with that being said, for somebody to speak out against what a state is doing against an indigenous people, is that right? Make sure to please take the poll, by the way. This is something that we have to talk about. All right. I just wanted to go over that because I needed to clear that out, about anti-Semitism. And I had to do it in a nuanced way because some people will try to say, oh, you're oversimplifying it, JB. But no. Khalil's arrest is the first publicly known deportation effort under Trump's promised crackdown on students who joined protests against the war in Gaza that swept college campuses last spring. The administration has claimed participants forfeited their rights to remain in the country by supporting Hamas. McLaughlin signaled the arrest was directly connected to Khalil's role in the protest, alleging he, quote, led activities aligned to Hamas, a designated terrorist organization. As ICE agents arrived to Khalil's Manhattan residence Saturday night, they also threatened to arrest Khalil's wife, an American citizen who was 8 months pregnant, So here you have them threatening to arrest a pregnant woman who is an American citizen. Well, that's awkward. That's weird. Why would ICE agents arrest an American citizen that's pregnant? Shall we continue? Khalil's attorney said they were initially informed that he was being held at the immigration detention facility in Elizabeth, New Jersey. But when his wife tried to visit Sunday, she learned that he was not there. Greer says she still did not know Khalil's whereabouts as of Sunday night, meaning they took this dude away and they basically disappeared him. They disappeared this man. This is mafia type stuff. You're gonna spit out your tea once you find out where he ended up. Let's continue. It says we have not been able to get any more details about why he's being detained. This is a clear escalation. The administration is following through on its threats. A Columbia University spokesperson said law enforcement agents must provide a warrant before entering university property, but declined to say if the school had received one ahead of Khalil's arrest. The spokesperson declined to comment on Khalil's detention, meaning that they might have just violated the law in order to deport somebody for just speaking out against an apartheid regime. Oh, but in America, we never do that. If you're saying this is not who we are, then you have failed to study history in its true, accurate, grotesque nature that it actually exists in. This is who the United States is. Remember the Chinese Exclusion Act? Remember the Japanese internment camps? Remember Jim Crow? It is exactly who the United States is. Let's continue. And a message here on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. I don't care. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the administration will be revoking the visas and or green cards of Hamas supporters in America so they can be deported. The Department of Homeland Security can initiate deportation proceedings against green card holders for a broad range of alleged criminal activity, including supporting a terror group. But the detention of a legal permanent resident who has not been charged with a crime marked an extraordinary move with an uncertain legal foundation, according to immigration experts. This is the appearance of retaliatory action against someone who expressed an opinion of Trump the administration didn't like. That was from Camille Mackler. Khalil, who received his master's degree from the Columbia School of International Affairs last summer, serves as a negotiator for the students as they bargained with university officials over an end to the tent encampment erected on campus last spring. The role made him one of the most visible activists in support of the movement, prompting calls from pro-Israel activists in recent weeks for the Trump administration to begin deportation proceedings against him. Khalil was also among those under investigation by a new Columbia University office that's brought disciplinary charges against dozens of students for their pro-Palestinian activism, according to the records shared with the AP. The investigations come as the Trump administration has followed through on its threat to cut hundreds of millions of dollars of funding to Columbia because of what the government describes as Ivy League schools' failure to squelch anti-Semitism on campus. The university's allegations against Khalil focus on his involvement at the Columbia Apartheid Divest Group. He faced sanctions for potentially helping to organize an unauthorized marching event in which participants glorified Hamas on October 7, 2023 attack, and playing a substantial role in the circulation of social media posts criticizing Zionism, among other acts of alleged discrimination. Now, he's facing sanctions because he decided to help organize a protest. I'm going to quote a comrade of mine saying, if you need to get a permit for a protest, then it's not a protest, it's a parade. It's a protest. Also, that falls under free speech, which is due to us through the Constitution of the United States. And he is a permanent resident of the United States. So therefore, free speech also applies to him. And yet, if he criticizes the government, guess what? Oh, well, he gets deported. I wonder would they do the same thing to people who support the KKK or the Proud Boys or the Three Percenters? Where is this deportation? Can we deport them back to Germany or Czechoslovakia or Poland? Or can we deport them to Norway, to England? Can we deport them? Can we deport them to Spain or Portugal? Can we deport those terrorist groups? Oh, you don't want to, you're cool with the far right, white supremacist terrorist groups that have had a history of terrorizing us. You're cool with that. But the moment somebody criticizes Israel, just rhetorically, you're shaking in your boots. This country is cool. I'm telling you, I don't know what to tell you. This country is COOKED. Cooked. All right. I have around 13 allegations against me. Most of them are social media posts that had nothing to do with that. Was from Mahmoud Khalil. They just want to show Congress and right-wing personalities that they're doing something regardless for the stakes of the students. It's mainly an office to chill pro-Palestine speech. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people have to realize the cruelty is the point. The cruelty is the deterrent so that you shut the F up. That's what it is. The cruelty. So that you look at somebody like Mahmoud Khalil and go, oh, I can't speak out. Because if I speak out, then I'll end up like him. This is how they quelch an uprising against injustice. They will make an example out of one. Excuse me. One thing should be made abundantly clear. Khalil did nothing wrong. He used his free speech. Let's get into the later developments of what happened. Okay. Let's get into this. It says Trump warns that arrest of Palestinian activists at Columbia will be first of many. So here's something I wanted to focus on. Mahmoud Khalil, lawful U.S. resident who was a graduate at Columbia in December, was detained Saturday by federal immigration agents in New York and flown to immigration jail in Louisiana. Louisiana? He's all the way up in New York at Columbia. They said they'll be transferring him to a facility in Elizabeth, New Jersey, which isn't that far. It may be 45 minutes to an hour away, right? But no. They were like, nah, we're sending him all the way to Louisiana. For speaking out against Israel? It develops even further. It's crazy. This is crazy, folks. This is crazy, folks. Let me get into this. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, Trump wrote on a social media post. We will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. It's kind of funny how they call these groups terrorists, yet the state of Israel was the one that has killed hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. On October 7th, it was about 1,200 people that were killed by Palestinian resistance. Most people who are conscripted into military service. But men, women, children, the disabled, LGBTQ, and everybody in between were murdered, killed, maimed, and destroyed over the last 18 months. And nobody talks about the terrorism that was conducted by Israel. Netanyahu can fly to the United States, walk into our Capitol building, and receive thunderous applause from our members of elected officials, and nobody is putting handcuffs on him and putting him in the pen? But you guys want to deport a guy for talking about how he doesn't think that his people should be genocide? What's down is up and what's up is down. What's right is wrong, what's wrong is right. What's sweet is bitter, what's bitter is sweet. This entire country is cattywampus. And the world is looking at this country like, oh my God, the United States is just one gigantic contradiction. Well, yes, it is. Because they talk about freedom and democracy, but when it comes time to actually give freedom and democracy, you don't want to give it because then that threatens the power of the people who don't want you to have freedom and democracy, which are the people at the top. Y'all wonder why I'm a communist. Let's continue. It says, but a federal judge in New York City ordered on Monday, which was yesterday, that Khalil not be deported while the court considered a legal challenge brought by his lawyers. A hearing was scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday. It says Khalil's detention drew outrage from civil rights groups and free speech advocates like myself, who accused the administration of using its immigration enforcement powers to squelch criticism of Israel. This is absolutely true. This is because they do not want any criticism of their military base in Western Asia. That's all it is. They don't want people to question its legitimacy and why it's there. And you guys probably keep going, well, why do you keep calling it a military base? There's forced conscription there, first of all. So if you go there, well, you have to join the military if you're of military age, number one. Number two, it's a nuclear power. And they're so tied at the hip to the United States. Mossad is CIA and CIA is Mossad. The Knesset is basically our House and Senate. It's just a separate division in Western Asia. And their interests are really for the interests of corporations. It is not for the interest of Jewish people. They don't give a damn about Jewish people. Israel is an anti-Semitic state because they put Jewish people's lives in danger via settler colonialism, and they put Palestinians' lives in danger and destroy them if they resist. So if you really want to talk about anti-Semitism, the call is coming from inside the house, but they don't want to hear that. Let's continue. He is the first person known to be detained for deportation under Trump promised crackdown on student protests. Federal immigration authorities also visited a second international student at Columbia on Friday evening and attempted to take her into custody, but were not allowed to enter the apartment, according to a union representing the students. So there's the protest right there. It says Khalil had not been charged with any crime related to his activism, but Trump has argued that protesters forfeited their rights to remain in the country by protests he claimed support Hamas, the Palestinian group that attacked Israel on October 7th of 2023. The U.S. has designated Hamas as a terrorist organization. I want to focus on this. It says the U.S. has designated Hamas as a terrorist organization. Why is this important? Did you know that Nelson Mandela was on the terrorist watch list up until 2008? Nelson Mandela. And what did they do? Not much different than Hamas, not much different than the Palestinian resistance. They were resisting apartheid. They were resisting colonization. They were resisting settler colonialism. And yet, now everybody's free to revere and praise Nelson Mandela, even though he was considered a terrorist before 2008. Because it threatened the power of the people at the top. The ANC threatened the power of the people at the top. And so anybody that threatens power in that way is seen as dangerous. This guy is being considered a terrorist for wanting Palestine to be free, and yet you still got people like Dylan Roof that's not on the terrorist watch list. Even though, yeah, he's in custody because he shot a whole bunch of people in a church, black people in a church. He should have also been designated as a terrorist just by his actions. What are we doing with the Grand Wizards of the KKK? Are they on any terrorist watch list, or have they been taken off the terrorist watch list? Anytime you have a group that challenges the power of the United States, they are seen as a threat. I'm going to say it like this. We are a threat only in the sense that power does not like to democratize, to have it doesn't, the powers that be do not want to see a democratization of the power that they wield amongst all the people. They want to see it centered into the hands of a few. Let me share this just to prove my point. This is a Time magazine article. It says the U.S. government had Nelson Mandela on a terrorist watch list until 2008. Here's why. I'm not going to read the entire article, but I think it's important to read this, right? Okay. Says, yet throughout his life, Mandela had a habit of saying that he was not a saint, as Time noted in 2013 obituary. Perhaps more surprisingly, from today's perspective, many people around the world felt the same way. In fact, Mandela remained on the U.S. terrorist watch list until 2008. Understanding the reasons behind the fact that requires seeing Mandela's life and work in context of both the history of the African National Congress, the ANC, the political party in which Mandela was associated, and the history of the United States attitudes during the Cold War. It's on the ANC side, the deciding factor was a shift in strategy that led some activists to see violence as a possible means to an end. The end being the end of South Africa's official government policy of the separation of blacks and whites. Since its founding in 1912, the ANC fought against apartheid for decades through rigorously nonviolent means, mostly labor strikes and public service boycotts. But the ANC's policy of nonviolence received a sudden and brutal setback in 1960. Here's the thing that I want you guys to realize, right? This can also be applied to Palestine because they too have went through rigorous nonviolent means, fought against apartheid through nonviolent means, labor strikes, and public service boycotts. They have been doing the March of Return, and what did the Israeli side do? They shot at them. They were unarmed. They shot at them like it was a game. They maimed and killed people who were just coming to the fence to plead with them, to let them move back into their homes. When all other non-violent avenues are exhausted, what is left? The apartheid government of South Africa left them no choice. But people are going to say, oh, violence isn't the answer. Well, you know what? The United States didn't think so, because back in 1776, they definitely thought violence was the answer. Violence was the answer in 1619, between 1619 and until now, when it came to clearing out the land away from the Native Americans. When it comes to countries that actually exercise their sovereignty and their self-determination, and they actually want to nationalize their industries, like what happened in Chile, the United States saw that violence was the answer in order to overthrow and take out Salvador Allende and replace him with Ernesto Pinochet. I forget his first name. It doesn't even really matter anyway, because he's a fascist dictator. What about what they did with Sankara or Nkrumah? They always saw violence as the answer. 600 attempts on Fidel Castro's life because they thought that violence was the answer. They bash our heads in, even for just questioning the state. So the problem is that we went through nonviolent means. And there's a good question that was asked because there was a question and answer between Kwame Ture and some students at a college. And one student strolls up. I should play it, but for the sake of time, one student strolls up and says, "Well, I think violence is barbaric and stupid." And he, it's like he basically, I just wanted to make a statement, and then he shrugs and tries to think, "Oh yeah, I cleaned up Kwame Ture. I'm gonna walk off." Kwame Ture goes, "Come back here, come back here." And then you start asking questions like, "What do you think about capitalism?" The guy's like, "I didn't say anything about it." And then he goes, "Let me ask you this. If you're a slave and I'm your master, and the only way to get your freedom is to strike the blow to me and kill me, what would you do?" That student dropped his head, picked it back up, waved, and walked off because he knew Kwame was right. I'm not advocating for violence, but what I'm saying is that I understand the resolve that the ANC had to take in order to resist being locked out of their own land. I understand what the Native Americans had to do against these European settlers that were trying to lock them out of their own land. I understand what Nat Turner was trying to do. And so here's the thing. When you leave them no resolve, when you leave no space for people to actually gain liberation through peaceful means, then there's going to be the other guy. You're going to get Luigi because they feel like there's no other way out. What do cats do, or what do some animals do when they feel threatened? First, they raise their backs. They may make a noise. They may growl. That's the warning. That's the non-violent warning to say, no, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go the other way. And y'all been going after us with our backs raised, with our hair standing on end, with us growling. And guess what? Somebody is going to swipe their claws. Somebody is going to bite. Because you're leaving them no choice. And all Mahmoud did was just speak out and say, Palestine should be free. And apparently that's a bridge too far. So yeah, they had him on a terrorist watch list. They had Nelson Mandela, right? Let me share some more. I really appreciate this tweet from Nick because my brother be on it. Let me share this with y'all. Because everybody who's coming in here saying, well, that's the Republicans, but the Democrats would never do that. Oh, my sweet summer child. Let's take a look. All right. Okay. Nick says, never forget that Joe Biden's fascism directly led to everything that Donald Trump is about to do. And he shares a screenshot of a headline. What does the headline say, y'all? It says, Biden administration says it can revoke visas of Hamas supporters as Republicans urge action. The blurb says Senator Marco Rubio has requested answers from the State Department. This was back in November 17th of 2023. You see, Joe Biden and the Democrats, they just be feeding ideas to the Republicans for them to conduct their fascism more on an outward fashion. I'm telling you right now, this is why we talk about leaving the duopoly, because the duopoly, it serves you no good. It serves you ill. Thank you very much for that, Nick. I really appreciate that. You hit the nail on the head, brother. And then he says this. Just when I thought my brother couldn't hit the nail on the head anymore, he jackhammered it. He said, there's a reason why Democrats are completely silent about Trump deporting students critical of Israel. He essentially stole their idea. Kamala Harris was 100% about to do the same thing. It's a big club and you ain't in it, baby. And that's the problem. The thing is like, that club is on lockdown. Now, there has been some outrage from Democrats. And I do want to say that, does this go far enough? Absolutely not. And to be honest with you, I think the time for writing letters is over. I think the time for more direct action, on the part of Congress is actually warranted. But let's take a look. This is from Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Says, I'm joining 13 of my colleagues to demand that the Trump administration immediately releases Mahmoud Khalil. Their illegal actions set a dangerous precedent. We cannot allow them to shred our constitutional rights to free speech and due process. Free Mahmoud Khalil. Let's look at the signatories, shall we? So you have Rashida Tlaib, Mark Pocan. Hang on, let me enlarge this just a little bit. You have Nadia Velasquez, Delia Ramirez, Ilhan Omar, Jasmine Crockett, Summer Lee, Ayanna Presley. And then we have Latifah Simon, Al Green, Gwen Moore, Andre Carson, Nikema Williams, and James P. McGovern. But there's a name missing. There's a name missing. Alexandria. Where you at? Holla. No AOC. Also, by the way, my congressperson, Maxwell Alejandro Frost, where's your name at? What's your name at, bro? Are you going to forget about Mahmoud just like you forgot about the Florida Palestine network that tried to get you to appeal to your better angels to actually advocate for at least an arms embargo and stop this genocide that's going on? Oh, but no, just like them, you turn your back on the Palestinians when it was politically convenient for you, young man. And so now when you have a chance to redeem yourself, you actually don't even do the bare minimum. Maxwell Frost is AOC in drag. He's just going along to get along. See, he wants to keep that $170,000 a year salary. And by the time he gets to 5 years, he gets to keep that pension for the rest of his life. He's trying to be set up. Remember when I talked about the mission versus the money? Well, the money matters more than the mission. The money matters more than the mission than 535 people on Capitol Hill. The money matters more than the mission than the people in the Supreme Court. The money matters more than the mission with the people in the executive branch. True story. Because to them, they have to keep the system in place because they're comfortable. I honestly don't even want to give Rashida Tlaib credit for this because a letter? A letter? That's what you're going to do? Strongly worded letter? And even then, AOC and Maxwell Frost couldn't even be bothered to sign it. Wait, was Pramila Jayapal's name in there? Hang on. Because I don't remember seeing Pramila Jayapal's name. Did I miss? No, Nadia Delele, Ilhan, Jasmine, Summer Lee, Ayanna Presley, Latifah, Al Green, Gwen Moore, Andre Carson, Nakima, James P. McGovern. No. Oh my good. Oh my stars and stripes. No Pramila Jayapal. No Rokana. See, this is why we walked away from the word progressive, because progressive getting co-opted. I'm also walking away from the word leftist because even that has been co-opted by the Democrats. Under no certain terms are they actually united with us. What's the word? Rotating villain. You also have rotating heroes. These are the rotating heroes to make people think, oh my God, the Democrats are doing they're doing something good for once. You got 13 of them. How many Democrats do you have in Congress? And you mean to tell me that you can only get 13 signatories? 13? That's it? Let that be your 13 reasons why you should leave the Democratic Party. I'm telling you, man. I'm done. Because, you have a gentleman. You have free speech on the line, and they just write a strongly worded letter. Let's play with what this gentleman said, Mahmoud Khalil, first, and then let's get into some words from my sister as well, because she got some strong words too, and I want to show it. But it says Columbia protesters' tent encampment won't end until our university listens to our demands. Okay, let's go.
Are you guys going to listen to the university and leave the encampment here?
Of course not. The university is the one who should listen to us. They should listen to their student body who are demanding to end their investment in the war that's happening in Palestine. Our demands are clear. Our demands are regarding the investment from the Israeli occupation, the companies that are profiting and contributing to the genocide of our people. Again, the university, once again, they are so stubborn in listening to their students. They're treating this matter as a disciplinary matter. They're not treating this as an anti-war movement that actually gathered thousands of students here. That actually sparked thousands of students across the United States.
How far are you all willing to go here on campus?
We're going to go as far as we need to pressure the university to pressure the university to divest from the occupation. This is up to the group, to the leadership of the group, to decide how far they will go. But now it's clear that the students will remain here. They will stay here until they achieve their demands.
So basically, that was what he said. Let me ask you this. And what he said, how does that deem? Is there anyone under physical threat? Is there anyone in direct threat of their lives or safety or health by what he just said? Who within the United States is in danger of him saying those words and then it triggering something horribly happening to somebody? Do sudden daggers come, that just suddenly appear out of thin air whenever he speaks and does harm to people? Is he inciting anything that would harm the health and safety of American citizens? If your answer to all those are no, then why are we trying to deport him? Or just expressing an opinion and fighting against an apartheid state? And for anybody who is first hearing the words apartheid, the root word is apart. Apartheid basically meaning separate but unequal statuses of two different people, which is basically an outside of the United States version of Jim Crow. And Jim Crow was horrible, especially for my people. He's advocating for peace. So advocating for peace lands you deportation in the United States. Advocating for liberation gets you deportation, allegedly, according to the Trump administration and according to the Biden administration. Let me share what Sabi said, because I also want to get into this. I know this segment's going a little long, but this is really important. Sabi said there is nothing wrong with this statement here. You're reaching to protect the genocidal state. This is a direct violation of free speech. It is pathetic that you're willing to sink this low. And so this is the problem, is that they're so snowflakish. It's like if you speak against what Israel's doing, it's like you're saying something about their mama. And even then, that's free speech. You know, it makes me wonder about the people who have criticized what America is doing. And if your free speech rights are taken away because of you criticizing America, you got to lock people up on the left and the right. You got to lock up everybody, because everybody and their mama has spoke out against America and its policies. Nobody's exempt. Sharing this from Glenn Greenwald. Oop, sorry. And I'll share the mass protests. Says the mass deportations of MAGA was promised, haven't been happening, so they're flamboyantly deporting legal green card holders instead for the supreme crime of activism against Israel. We heard about murderers, child rapists, cat and dog eaters, the worst who ICE got today. So instead of actually going after people who they said were the actual criminals, they went after somebody that's advocating for peace and liberation for Palestine. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. And so this is the contradictions of the Trump administration. It is just as stark as the contradictions of the Biden administration. And they're even lying on corporate media to make it sound like this guy is some paid operative. Well, you mean like somebody who's paid by IPAC? Oh, Lord. Let's get into it.
He came here on a student visa. He's paid by a terrorist organization that beheads babies.
Evidence do you have?
That beheads babies.
First of all, he said beheaded babies. Number one, that has been debunked by many journalists and news outlets. So there was no evidence of babies being beheaded. So let's get that out of the way. If you still believe that story, you are as gullible as, oh my gosh. Oh, poor thing. But that, we got to nip that in the bud. Let's continue.
I have evidence.
So I'm sorry, just to be clear, you're alleging that he's paid by
He's a paid protester.
By who?
Well, I didn't ask my intelligence division exactly who paid for him, but he's being paid by. He's being paid.
That's a pretty explosive allegation. Who is he being paid by?
Can I ask you a question?
No,
You're not answering the question. Somebody get Paul. Somebody get Paul and just tell him this to just. Oh my God. What in the world? Now you're alleging somebody paid him? So he's being paid to care about the liberation of a people that's being genocided?
So you had evidence. Who is he being paid by?
He's being paid by organizations that are anti-American, that are engaged in nefarious activities. I don't ask my intelligence division to give me.
Then don't come on national TV and say on things. Don't come on national TV.
Do you know who he's being paid by?
I don't, and I'm not alleging that he's being paid.
Are you okay with what he's doing?
I'm not alleging he's being paid by because I don't know.
And that is right-winger Ana Navarro challenging him. You know you lost the plot when you get challenged by Ana Navarro, and Ana Navarro actually has a point. Lord. You get challenged by Ana Navarro. Who is this guy? ¿Qué tu problema? They just throw out anything to see if it sticks. Meanwhile, how many U.S. politicians right now that are being funded by IPAC and J Street on behalf of a foreign state within our borders from a foreign nation that should be registered as a foreign agent but is not? Pot called kettle black. That's the chamber pot calling the toilet white. Sit down, sir, because you have absolutely no reason to say anything like that other than you're just trying to stoke fear and to make it seem like, well, he's being paid. It looks like to me he's not being paid. He's actually motivated by compassion, and he's being motivated by love for his people because he doesn't want to see them get slaughtered. Because that's what we activists do. We're motivated by justice and compassion. It ain't got nothing to do with money. But I wonder what his motivations are. What feeds his motivations? There's a reason why he's on CNN right now. All right. I went on this long enough. Let me see. I think I got one more thing I want to share as well. I didn't mean for this to be this long of a segment, but these guys are just the worst. Here's a hotspot video where Sagar and Jetty actually is now part of the press pool because the Trump administration opened it up to independent media, which allows people like Sagar to go in, but I haven't seen anybody from the left, you know what I mean, in there, because they wouldn't dare have somebody like one of us, right? I would love to see somebody like, Savvy or Nick go in there and challenge them. Hell, give me Max Blumenthal, or give me Anya Perrenpill in there, or Whitney Webb to challenge it. Anywho, let's listen.
Rubio reserves the right to revoke the visa of Mahmoud Khalil. And I'm glad you brought this up. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the Secretary of State has the right to revoke a green card or a visa for individuals who serve or are adversarial to the foreign policy and national security interests of the United States.
Wrong. It's suspected of a crime. It's under suspect of a crime, and he has not been suspected of a crime. He has not committed a crime, so therefore he should not be detained. But of course, they don't care about that because they're snowflakes, because they can't take criticism of a state. Oh my God, they criticized this state, so we got to deport them. You know how there are snowflakes on both sides, liberals and conservatives. I'm not talking about the people in general, but I'm talking about these talking heads and these government officials, the Democrat side and the Republican side. They're all snowflakes because they can't take the real criticism. They can't win the real battle of ideas. The moment you're correct, they want to sabotage and then flip over the table because they know they're losing. These people get me mad.
United States of America. And Mahmoud Khalil was an individual who was given the privilege of coming to this country to study at one of our nation's finest universities and colleges. And he took advantage of that opportunity, of that privilege, by siding with terrorists, Hamas terrorists who have killed innocent men, women, and children. This is an individual who organized.
By the way, the men and women were mostly conscripted into military service. And then I think there was 1 or 2 kids that were killed on October 7th, and they were actually killed by Israeli fire. If you haven't, I encourage you to look up the Hannibal Doctrine in regards to Israel. That'll give you a lot more answers. Let's continue.
Group protests that not only disrupted college campus classes and harassed Jewish American students and made them.
No, she's wrong. Disrupt classes? Yeah, that's what a protest is supposed to do. Protest is supposed to disrupt, first of all. Second of all, harass Jewish students. There were Jewish students that were actually part of the protest. Many of them are part of the protest, part of the groups of Student for Justice in Palestine, groups of If Not Now, When, parts of Jewish Voices for Peace. So don't sit there and hide behind Jewish people who are fighting against genocide and apartheid. No. You do not get to do that. Out of hearing from Norm Finkelstein, Max Blumenthal, Lee Camp, Aaron Mate, Miko Paled, Katie Halper, so many Jewish voices that are speaking out against the apartheid and genocide that Israel is doing. And there are many, many, many students right now that are Jewish that are also fighting against this apartheid state. And you're saying, oh, you're trying to protect them? Meanwhile, a lot of these Jewish students are trying to protect the innocent Palestinians from being murdered. So don't you dare conflate that. This is the bleach version of Corinne Jean-Pierre. All right, make no mistake. Liars come in many colors. Okay? So guess what? You get the light version this time.
Feel unsafe on their own college campus, but also distributed pro-Hamas propaganda. Flyers,
because to them, Palestinian liberation is being pro-Hamas. Here's the students. Make sure. And so there's a lot of people that are fighting against this. They're signing petitions and things like that. I need to pull up the petition. I'm sorry. But so that I can share it around. But let me read the caption really quick. This person, Ayal Yacobi, says, breaking terror supporting students and faculty are currently blocking the steps to enter the classroom at Columbia. These extremists at Columbia continue to prove that they prioritize support for terrorism over in education. Oh my God. Twisting words.
As people join us, we are going to sing the Ruth song. If you guys don't know it, it's here. Where you go, I will go, my friend. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, my friend. Where you go, I will go. Students are under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. When students are under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. When immigrants are under attack. When immigrants are under attack. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. Say it loud, say it clear. Say it loud, say it clear. We don't want ICE here. We don't want ICE here. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here. We will never let this slide. Columbia, Columbia, you can't hide. We will never let this slide. We will never let this slide. Katrina Armstrong, you can't hide. Katrina Armstrong, you can't hide. On your side. Katrina Armstrong, what do you say? Katrina Armstrong, what do you say? How many boots did you lick today? How many boots did you lick today? Katrina Armstrong, what do you say? Katrina Armstrong, what do you say? How many boots did you lick today? How many boots did you lick today? Say it once, say it twice. Say it once, say it twice.
So, answer me this. Does that look like a violent bunch to you? Good. I'm glad we're on the same page. So when it comes to people like Mahmoud Khalil, people like that gentleman should be able to speak out against a foreign entity. He's not even talking about America. He's talking about a foreign government. And yet he's getting deported for criticizing a foreign government. So let me ask you this. Okay. If we're going to go down this slippery slope, who can we deport for criticizing Cuba? Can we deport Marco Rubio? Because they're criticizing a foreign government. Or who can we deport for criticizing Russia? Who can we deport for criticizing DPRK, aka North Korea? Who can we deport for criticizing Brazil? Who can we deport for criticizing China? Oh, can we deport Trump for criticizing China? If I criticize, okay, they're adversaries of the United States. Okay, if I criticize Italy, the Italian government, should I be deported? You're part of the G7. If I criticize the German government, should I be deported? If I say, screw King Charles and screw the British government, do I get deported for speaking out against one of the United States' closest allies? You see how incongruent this is? You see how out of whack this is? And yet, you say one word against Israel. And by the way, let's keep it up. Let's keep it a bean. I'm gonna let my black ass come out. Where is all this emphasis on anti-blackness in this country, especially when it comes to the anti-black white supremacist laws that's baked within the system of this country? And you don't want to have that much smoke for them, but you're willing to have smoke for people who are advocating for Palestinians, but you're saying they're anti-Semitic when in reality they're not. What about us? Right? Okay. So dudes can walk around with swastikas and Nazi flags all over this damn country, and they can't get deported back to Europe. But one guy criticizes Israel, and you're saying, well, we got to deport him. No, baby. Start off with the people. Start off with the people. Start off with the people who are the neo-Nazis. Start off with the people who are KKK members. If you're going to go down that slippery slope, all right, let's go down that slippery slope. Let's start off with them. Right? Let's send them back to Germany. Let's send them back to Portugal. Let's send them back to Italy and Spain and Britain. Let's ship them back. Oh, but that's a bridge too far, right? Y'all don't ever, all this smoke for people who just want liberation for an indigenous people. And then it's like, what about all the police that have been bashing our heads in? When do these police officers get deported? What about the police officers who have been killing? What about the police officer that shot Sonia Massey in the face? Can he get deported? All right, y'all. I'm done with this segment. Because this country is cooked. This country is COOKED, cooked. Cooked dead. All right. I did not want this segment to be this long, but baby, it got to me. Anyways. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.